It's all right. You can leisurely do that. Okay.
Okay. Thank
Right.
you.
I'm asking those who were there then. Nobody could attempt. Please respond. It's all right. I understand you. What about Channa? You're on top. That's why I'm asking you first.
Yeah, ma'am, I didn't do. I could re-listen the video yesterday, but I couldn't complete.
Right. Okay. So
I
what
will
do
do
you
it.
like it? For me to discuss the answers or you to try the answers on your own? What do you like?
Madam, if you can, we like to do with you, madam. It's better, I
Yeah.
think.
Discussion.
Why? It's difficult, but it takes up some time. Then we have the syllabus also to cover. But as this is the first one, I will just quickly have a look at it. Okay.
Okay.
But
Okay,
hereafter, it's up to you to do. It's extra kind of work that is to be done by yourself, because we have to save class time for the covering of the syllabus. Okay. But as this is the first one, I will actually do it with you all. If you can't do that, what you can do is you have to listen to the discussion over and over and then do that. Okay. Because you all are adult learners. So adult learners should actually work on your own as well. But I will do that because it's the first one. Yeah, I understand, and I will do that. So let me open my question, right? I gave you. Hereafter, I will not do Putta because it's up to you. This is for you to study and check your own knowledge. So underline the correct option, the first one. You can share the document that I'm sharing. Am I right? Can you see the document I'm sharing?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
First
ma'am.
part. I will
Yes.
quickly read all the MCQ questions in part 1 are based on Piaget's theory of cognitive development. Piaget belongs to
Cognitivism.
cognitivism, correct? Because his theory is also cognitive development theory. Am I right? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Then it's the idea that objects exist even if they are out of sight.
Object permanence.
Object permanence. Very good. Which of the following in your question paper, I might ask you, explain the term object permanence with an example. You'll be able to explain, right? Which of the following statements is true according to Piaget children? But must complete each stage, but in any order. Is it right or wrong? Must complete
Wrong.
each stage, but in any order. It's wrong. Because age may vary, never the sequence. They have to master the first stage to go to the second stage. Sometimes the age specified may vary. So which is the correct one?
Third one.
Fourth one. Fourth one. Fourth one.
No. Must complete all stages by the time they are 5 is wrong, no?
Last one.
11
Fourth
plus is
one.
the 4th. Must complete all the stages in the same order. In the same order. That is the correct one. Number 4. Can one of you read the question? A schema is a. What is a schema?
Category of knowledge that allows us to interpret.
Very good. Category of knowledge that allows us to interpret and understand the world. Okay. Number 5. Is adjusting what is already known to fit the new information. Is adjusting what is already known to fit the new information.
Assimilation.
Assimilation. Okay, good. When Rashmi was 5 months old, she looked at a toy train, but when her view of the train was blocked, she did not search for it. Now that she's 9 months old, She does search for it, reflecting a development of.
Object permanence.
Schemata.
What is it?
Schemata.
Again, you read when Rashmi was 5 months old. She looked at a toy train, but when her view of the train was blocked, she did not search for it. Now that she's 9 months old, she does search for it, reflecting a development of
Object permanence.
object
permanence.
permanence. Okay. Number 8. 2 containers hold the same amount, but Jane thinks that the taller Skinner glass holds more. According to Piaget, what is this termed as?
Conservation.
Very good. Conservation. According to Piaget, what is the belief that inanimate objects such as toys and teddy bears have many feelings and intentions termed as? During which stage does the child shed it? Inanimate objects having living qualities that false belief. What is it termed as?
Animism.
Very good. Animism. Thinking in the concrete operational stage is characterized by thinking in the concrete operational stage, the third stage.
Reversibility, classification, and conservation.
Very good. Add another one to this.
Seriation.
Seriation. Right. Very good. You have studied. I can see 2 or 3 of you are okay. Others, they have to actually study. Okay. Question 1. Define educational psychology. You have to do this on your own today, right? Now you can see the breakdown of the marks. 4, 9, 6, 6, 25. So for the first one, 4. For the B part, you are given 9 marks. So it has to be lengthy. Normally, one full page is for 8 marks, they say. So it should go into 1.5 A4 pages for 9 marks. Okay. Explain the term lifespan development. We have done them, so you have to listen to your recording and write answers. Discuss 2 main factors that affect lifespan development. Discuss. It's not just mention nature versus nurture, maturity versus learning. No, you have to give examples and discuss that. Okay. Right. Question 2. State the 4 stages of cognitive development in proper sequence as proposed by Piaget. Ewana lazy neda lakunu dekai. එතකොට sensory motor, pre-operational, concrete operational, and formal operational. State. Just state. Explain the following terms referring to Piaget's theory of cognitive development, object permanence, animism. So you can now do that. Ne? Listen to the recording and do otherwise. I have sent you reading material also. As per Piaget, what task can be used to assess the following? Egocentrism, what is the task? What is the task? According to Piaget, what task can be used to assess the following? Egocentrism, what is the task?
Tree mountain task.
Very good. Conservation,
Beaker study.
very good. You have studied. What's your name, dear?
Situme.
Situmi. Very good. I'm very happy. I want others also to be like that. Okay. State 4 major accomplishments of the third stage of cognitive development by Piaget. So state 4 major accomplishments. Third stage, we look at them. Classification, seriation, reversibility, and conservation. Give an example of assimilation referring to Piaget's theory of cognitive development. Example of assimilation. So you have to explain, right? A child sees a dog and like that, you have to actually be ready with those. Exam eකට ආවොත් then you can do. That is why these questions are set, okay? If not, listen to the recording and find. State 3 classroom implications of Piaget's theory of cognitive development. Readiness. Creating new experiences, confronting the child with new experiences for the expansion of schemata. right? Then use of concrete, use of visual aids, realia, and concrete situations to teach in the primary. And especially the pre-primary, you have to use a lot of sensory input should be given. So play activities, hands-on experiences, and so on. Get them to engage in hands-on experiences and discover knowledge. All these are actually right. So I think you can actually do it on your own. Now, last time I started cognition. Did I start cognition, Pita? Did I start cognition? Can you hear me? Yeah. Now, I want to tell you something, Pita. I want every one of you to study on regular basis because psychology, a word of advice, okay? I like now, actually, today Sanjula. Sanjula had studied. Because of that, she could easily answer the questions. So I want others also to be like that, because, you can't just have the certificate and walk out with the certificate without developing your knowledge, skills, and attitudes. So you will get lots of good attitudes and skills and knowledge developed if you take this up very seriously. And at the same time, this is your first degree. So you have to do your postgraduate studies also. So for that, you have to develop your study skills. So study skills on regular basis that you all study, and you take interest in studying. It's an enjoyable activity for you. You read other materials and you get ready for exams by answering questions given. Those are study skills. If you develop them, you can actually continue to do your higher studies, if not postgraduate studies, and reach your targets and goals. Otherwise, you will find it a very traumatic experience. You just come and go, you don't study. That should not be the attitude, especially of a teacher. Now, you all are teachers now. Teachers are actually into learning because learning is lifelong. It's a word of advice. So next time I know that you will all somehow the other find some time, because I don't want you to spend hours and hours. You can actually do it in half an hour, what I said. Okay, it's a bit of a word of advice. So I know that you will not get angry with me for that. So I started cognition with you. So I'm going to open my PowerPoint first. Can you see the PowerPoint cognition?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So I discuss kind of definitions of cognition. So ultimately you learn cognition is actually the capacity to acquire and apply knowledge. So it's more or less what happens in learning and teaching process. So as teachers, if you know how your students acquire and apply knowledge, store them in the memory, retain it for some time, and then apply that knowledge to solve problems later on by retrieving them. So it is what you want to happen in your learning and teaching process in the classroom. So if you know how it happens, as discussed in educational psychology, so you can facilitate that same process. So you can actually get them to easily grasp what you say and put it into the memory, and to retrieve it from the memory and apply it in experiencing new knowledge. So that is what happens in learning and teaching. As a teacher, that is what you want to happen in the class. So because of that, we are looking at cognition. So in pedagogical psychology. And then you see cognitive process. Cognitive process is actually, it is not one single activity, that acquiring knowledge and giving it meaning, understand it, and committing it to memory, and keeping it in the memory for a long time, and then retrieving it to apply and understand new experiences. That is not one single event. It's a process which includes or involves a series of actions. So what are those processes? So I have put here as sensation and perception. This process begins with sensation and perception. Perception means understanding, perceiving. Okay. So sensation and perception we discuss. Sensation is a passive act. Perception is active because you have to give it meaning. Sensations are there. You're not actually very attentively paying attention to it. Once you paid attention, it is perceived. It's a red color one. It's small in size, it's big in size. Like that, you give it meaning. So perception becomes active, right? So we have discussed that here. I'm not going to actually read it again. And then we looked at this figure ground concept in perception, right? Figure ground concept in perception. And I told you how it's going to be very useful for the teacher, because each and every lesson that you go to do, you have specific objectives. That is what at the end of the lesson, what your students will be able to do. So you jot them down in the lesson plan. But your students may learn something else. So your lesson is not an effective lesson. So it's actually very common mistake that happens in classroom, even with experienced teachers. So because of that, you have to know in this lesson, what will my students be able to do? You have to jot it down. My students will be able to label. That so that what you want them to learn is the figure, but you can't just actually teach them. You will be using some other knowledge. You will give them examples. You will tell them some stories. They are ground. So make sure them to get the figure by getting them to, how can you get them to focus on the figure? Can you answer my question? As a teacher, how can you get them to focus on the figure? How? Please. How can you get them to focus on the figure? Please, please. How can you get them to focus on the figure? By getting them to pay?
By using colors, color differentiation.
Very good. By doing all these things, what are you going to do? What are you getting them to do? Get them to pay attention. What is the word?
Pay attention.
Pay attention. So if you have your lesson, the most important areas of the lesson, the objectives of the lesson, you have to get them to pay attention. So to pay attention, as you said, colors, highlighting, voice is raised, something written on the board, getting them to underline, asking a few questions when it comes to the important areas. So you get them to pay attention. What is it?
Small games.
Small games. That part is very important. Now I'm asking that question, you listen. Games like an active involvement.
Yeah.
So I'm asking that particular part. It's very important. So they don't have very, attention is not very consistent, right? Our attention span is very limited. So time to time that they actually deviate. For that, you have to know, this is a very important area. You show them a visual. They pay attention. And in the visual, you actually draw a circle. And they pay attention. So you do little things to gain attention to the important areas of the lesson. Because equal attention they can't pay consistently. We all can't do. Got my point?
Yes.
Yes, madam.
Channa, how are you feeling today? You're very silent, and that day you said you have a headache.
No, ma'am. Now I am fine. I was coming on the train. Right now I came
You're
home.
still traveling. Okay,
Yeah, ma'am.
right.
Now I am okay,
Okay.
ma'am. I can listen. I'm at home.
Okay,
Thank you,
right.
ma'am.
Okay. Now here, that day I told you, now perception is very important because there are lots of sensory inputs. They can't actually pay attention to each and every sensory input. But if you have a lesson and you really want them to actually pay attention to that because it's an important part. So you have to get them to pay attention. So then only it will be perceived. It will be given meaning. It will be sent to the brain to give meaning. Right? So for that, it's very important. Sensation and perception should occur. If it doesn't occur, nothing goes to the memory. So because of that, so the teachers have to actually get the students to pay attention and perceive. So perception is very important. Perception means understanding. So giving meaning. Okay, they don't actually give meaning to everything available as sensory inputs. That cannot be done. They have to select. So selected attention is paid. So teachers' responsibility is to get them to pay attention to those important areas. And as a teacher, that you should know how to facilitate the perception. So Gestalt psychologists, that is also a school of thought, but not a major one. The 4 major we have discussed now. So Gestalt psychologists, they actually talk about laws of perception, right? In these laws of perception, they say how the perception can be facilitated. Understanding can be facilitated or promoted. So for that, there are several laws, but this is pedagogical psychology. Because of that, I have actually selected 5 of those laws with their classroom implications or teacher implications or how they can be used in the classroom, how they can be applied in the classroom. So for that, I have a video with you. So I will show you the video and you have to make notes on them. So are you ready for that? I can go on telling, then it will be boring for you. So I will play the video and I get you to make notes on the 5 laws. Are you ready for that? I want every one of you to actually respond to me.
Yes.
It is courtesy, it's politeness, no?
Ready.
Yes,
madam.
ma'am.
Yeah, very good. So let me play the video. Now you have pen and paper. Do you have pen and paper?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, now I want you to take one full page, right? And divide the page into 4 columns. How many columns?
4 columns.
4 columns. The first column, you can name it. Name of the law. First column, name of the law. Did you write?
Yes, ma'am.
Second column, definition. What that law means. Okay, what that law means. Definition. 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 What that law means. Third column, picture, image. You will see what it is, image or the picture or illustration. All mean the same. Image kila danna, illustration or picture, PIC. Then the last one, classroom implication. What is the last one? Classroom implication. Right. Now I play the video. You have to complete this And then after that, we will have a quick kind of a discussion on that. We can't spend a lot of time on this, Puta, because we have to cover our syllabus as well. Okay. So because of that, as you all are adults, I think that you are ready now. So let me actually play it for you. Give me a second. Right. Can you hear the sounds?
Yes, ma'am.
You can hear, you can see both. Am I right?
I can see the board and hear your voice.
Only my voice can be heard, so I have to fix it. Give me a second. Give me a second. Okay. Oh no. No. I have to stop sharing first and then go here and yes. Now
And you're watching a basketball game on your.
Yes, ma'am.
very good. So you can complete the first 3 columns first. 4th column, I will show it separately. Okay, I'm telling you, you have 4 columns, and by looking at this video, you can complete only the first 3 columns. Okay, I'm playing it. Give me a second, something went wrong. Right, I'm playing.
TV. What you're actually seeing are a bunch of still images put in front of one another. And what you're
You can hear and see, yeah?
Yes, ma'am.
doing is taking those still images and putting them together in your head and basically telling yourself that you're watching a fluid, realistic basketball game. So how is it that we're able to do this? And this is what the Gestalt principles basically attempt to address.
Principles or laws, okay,
Gestalt
LAWS.
principles. So the Gestalt principles basically seek to explain how we perceive things the way we do. So why is it that we don't tell ourselves, hey, the basketball game is just a bunch of pictures, but rather that it's a fluid, realistic representation of a basketball game? Well, there are several different laws or principles that the Gestaltists came up with, and we're going to look at each one of these and look at an example. So over here, we're going to look at the law, and over here, we're going to write down the definition. So the first law or Gestalt principle is the law of similarity. So law of similarity.
Similarity.
And the law of similarity basically says that items that are similar to one another are grouped together by your brain. Grouped together. So what does this mean? Let's look at an example. So in this example, you can see that there are squares and there are circles. And basically there's a square here, there's a square, there's a circle here, and so on and so forth. And
now here, this is the first. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, this is the first law, law of similarity. Similar things are easily perceived. Similar things are easily perceived. Now, for example, you look at this. There are actually horizontal lines. There are vertical lines. What do you see easily at a glance? These horizontal lines or these vertical lines? At a glance, you easily perceive, you easily understand, you easily see.
Vertical.
These vertical lines. What is the reason? They are similar items.
Same items. Yeah,
Same items. That is what. So similarly, now how can you apply it in education, in teaching and learning? I will tell you. I will show you another video also on that. I will tell you how you can actually apply it in this law of similarity in classroom teaching and learning. Now, similar topics, they can be taught at the same time, but to facilitate perception and understand easily, to get them to understand it easily. For example, sometimes in curriculums, especially in our primary curriculum in grade 1, 2, 3 and all that in Sri Lanka, right? Now you have environmental studies, you have mathematics, you have English, activity-based oral English in grade 1 and 2. So when you introduce shapes, in mathematics, the lesson is shapes, right? At the same time or simultaneously, in the activity-based oral English, it's a poem about shapes. In environment studies, they get them to go to the environment and explore things in the environment that have the different kinds of shapes. In Sinhala language classroom, they learn the Sinhala terms for shapes. Same thing simultaneously, because perception can be facilitated. That is one example. I can give you another example. Now you're teaching a grade 6 class, right? You're teaching a grade 6 class. And there you are the English language teacher. So normally a teacher has to cover the 4 skills and the 2 elements. For example, listening, speaking, reading, writing. Then you have to teach grammar, vocabulary, sometimes mechanics of writing, and then pronunciation. So you have every Monday, you have grammar. Every Tuesday, you have reading. Every Wednesday, you have writing. So what can you do? You don't have to go according to the activities given in the textbook. You know what you should cover in this month, right? What are the competencies that you have to develop? So you can organize your teaching. That this Monday you teach them simple present tense grammar. Tuesday you get them to read a passage. That passage is written in simple present tense. So they actually, what they learn in grammar, now they see it again, similarity, okay? And in writing also, you give them a topic that they can use simple present tense to write that something, maybe daily routines and all that. So a very good professional teacher, she knows similarity helps. Because of that, she will actually try to organize the teaching and learning accordingly. So you have completed 3 columns. The 4th column, of course, we discussed, but you can't write it down right now. We'll see, okay? Now we'll move on to the next step.
Maybe the first thing that you noticed was that this image looked like there were a bunch of squares on top of one another and a bunch of circles on top of one another. So in other words, your brain naturally noticed a pattern. And it naturally noticed that the squares kind of created this vertical column, and these circles created this vertical column, and these squares created this vertical column. So your brain naturally organized this picture in vertical columns rather than in these longer horizontal columns. So this is what the first Gestalt principle is saying, is that things that are similar to one another, so circles, will be grouped together by your brain. So the second Gestalt principle is the law of pragnans. Pragnans.
There's another word, simplicity.
And this basically says that reality is often organized or reduced to the simplest form possible. So reality is reduced to simplest form. And what do I mean by this? Let's look at an example again here. So here...
So can I explain it? Now, law of pragnans. Pragnans is a German word because they are German psychologists. English meaning is simplicity. Simplicity. S-I-M-P-L-I-C-I-T-Y. Simplicity. Law of simplicity means we easily perceive things in its simplest form. We look at things, we try to understand things in its simplest form. Now, for example, in this, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am. We can hear
All
you.
right. In this, actually 5 laced rings, right? We easily see 5 rings, but we hardly pay attention to this part, this part, this part. There's a space left. This pass is there. We do not pay attention to these details. Instead, we all will actually try to see them as 5 interlaced rings, disregarding the rest. Why? Because we easily perceive things in its simplest form. So how can you actually apply it to education as a teacher? When you present lessons, you have to actually present your lessons in its simplest form. Even if it is actually hard facts, you have to find a way from step by step, making it into small parts, that how you can actually make it a very simple step-by-step lesson without presenting everything and making it a confusion for them. I will give you one example. I was talking about simple present tense. How can you make it simple? You first talk only about S form and base form positive. Once it is learned, you can actually introduce the negative. Do not stem, does not stem. Then the question form. First, filling the blanks with the correct verb. Then translation from singular to plural. Then only that you get them to actually write their own sentences. So that is teaching by breaking it down to small parts, and simple things are easily perceived. Is it clear to you, Puta?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
You see 5 circles
Yes, ma'am.
that are juxtaposed on top of one another. So what the law of pregnans basically says is that we look at this image, and what we do is we break it down into 5 circles. So here's 1 circle, here's 2 circles. So why is it that we don't break it down into more complex shapes? So we could look at this object and say, okay, here's this weird diamondy oval-y shape over here, and then there's a semicircle over here, and then we've got, or you could say here's one line and then here's another line. So we can look at this and break it down into much more complicated shapes, but we don't. We look at it and we just notice that, hey, here's a circle and here's another circle and they're on top of one another. So we're basically looking at this fairly complex set of lines and reducing it down to its simplest form, which is 5 circles juxtaposed on top of one another, rather than more complex shapes that are coming together to form this image. So the third Gestalt principle or law is the law of proximity. Law of proximity.
Nearness.
And this basically says that objects that are close to one another, are grouped together.
Easily
Grouped
perceived
together.
if they are in
So let's
close
look at an
proximity.
example of the law of proximity. So over here we see a bunch of circles. When you look at this image, you naturally notice kind of this pattern.
Right, I will explain it, Puta. Now you can see, look at this picture. Proximity is nearness. So if you actually place things near each other, they are easily perceived. So now here you can see, you perceive this as one set, and you perceive this as another set, and you don't see this as one set. Why is that? Because they are not in close proximity. There's a gap. So things actually put together in very near close proximity. Nearness, one close proximity, it helps the learner to actually easily understand things. So it can be, right, how you can apply that in classroom as a teacher. You know that law of proximity. Objects that are closely grouped together and close, they are grouped together and easily perceived. So you know that you teach something today, and you know you actually keep it aside and take up another topic next day. So what you actually started yesterday, you are going to take it up after another month. So they have, by that time, actually, they have actually forgotten everything. They will not easily understand what you say. So if you can actually place these lessons one after the other and finish it off, then they will actually easily grasp. I will take the same example of teaching, simple, step by step. First it's the positive, then it's negative, like that. So if you teach them positive today, and next month only that you are going to teach them negatives, it is not going to easily perceived by your students. Okay, right.
Rectangular pattern of circles, and you notice this other rectangular horizontal. Basically your brain, let me just erase these so you can see. So why is it that we didn't just look at this closer together? Then we naturally look at how. And the law of continuity basically says that lines are seen as following the smoothest path. Lines are seen as following the smoothest path. So let's look at an example. So in this example, we see.
Now here, how do you, now continuity. Lines are seen as following the smoothest path. Now here you can see, you will just actually see this. And you can perceive this easily. And this, of course, is not easily seen. Why? It's not the smoothest path. So here you have the continuity, very nice flow, connectedness, and all that. So what is the implication for you? So when you teach, you have to show them how they are connected to each other. Now, in your lessons, you can't teach everything in one period. Maybe that you cover the unit, maybe you cover a big topic in 3 days. So you can't just walk into the class and start. You have to actually recall what they have done previously on this topic, right? And today also I started cognition. Though I have done the definitions and the sensation and perception, I gave you a small briefing on that. So then the connectedness, flowness, smooth line, and continuity. It's continuity. It's continuity. It's a continuation of the same. So recalling prior knowledge, recalling the previous lessons, they are actually done by teachers, recalling their own experiences about something. That is, the flow is there, continuity is there, connectedness is there. That is shown, then only that they can understand the lessons easily, perceive it easily. There are some teachers, they don't show. Today you walk into the class, just do. But it may be started last week or last month, and it is connected, and you don't show the connection, and you don't see when it is finishing, and tomorrow also you're going to do that. You don't talk to them about it, but they are very important, because if you show the connectedness and the flow, they will easily perceive things. Good teachers, they do so. And once you finish the unit also, you show them up. Develop a kind of a web diagram on what we did in this unit. This unit, we discussed these. So you get them to summarize and show the summary of what we have done. Connectedness, flow, right? They easily perceive things. Right, okay.
Again, a bunch of circles. When you look at these, you kind of notice that there's this continuous flow in this set of circles rather than a flow. And notices that these circles are continuous, whereas these ones are a little bit discontinuous. Kind of puts them together and notices a pattern that, hey, these circles are forming than these guys over here. The law, or Gestalt principle, is the law of closure. Law of closure. And basically this is just saying that objects grouped together are seen as a whole. So we ignore gaps and complete contour lines. So let me just write down definition. So objects grouped together are seen as a whole. So let's look at an example. So over here.
Now, how do you perceive this? You don't see it as separate. Instead, you see the whole as a triangle. You see the whole as a triangle. So we have the ability to actually perceive it as a whole. Now in Gestalt psychology, it is said, Buddha, you can take it down. The sum of parts, I repeat, the whole, W-H-O-L-E, the whole thing, sampurna there. The whole is greater than some of its parts, I will explain it by getting you to have a look at a picture. Okay. Now, this is one video I want to show you with the classroom implications. And now here in this video, I will show you only the classroom implications. Can you see and hear both?
Yes, ma'am.
You can see and hear both, no?
Yes.
Right.
Ma'am.
Now same thing, same thing. But here you can see the classroom implications. Now here, how can this be applied? How can this be applied to education? Lessons should be planned with the next and previous in mind. They should be of similar topics. Okay. Closely related topics can be taught together. Closely related topics can be taught together. Should be made easy to make connections from one lesson to the next.
Ma'am, we can't see. We see only the last.
Yes,
I
madam.
see.
Gestalt principles only
I
we
see.
can.
Give me a second.
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
That is the difficulty, but let me see. Yeah. No. How can you? I think I have to share. A new share. And sound is shared. What about now?
Now it's fine, ma'am.
Now I'm not going to show you the same thing. Now here, how can this be applied to education? Now you can see what I explained only. You just see that I have sent you the link also. Cognition, I'm sending you the link. If I have not sent, I think I've already sent. You all have to watch and make a note of it, because definitely I'll be asking you. Name 5 laws and what are their implications, educational and teacher implications. So name 5. You don't have to say this law is for this. Commonly you can discuss, right? What you're supposed to do. Figure and ground, the most important parts of the lesson should stand out from the rest. Keywords can be underlined or highlighted. Important parts of a lesson. Okay. Right, that's it. That's it. I really wanted you to do it at home, but you said that you all are busy. So I took class time, and I have taken 1 hour for the discussion. but still it's a actually topic in your syllabus. And the sensation and perception, that is the actually first important process of the cognitive process. So what nothing perceived, you have lots of sensations, but they are not perceived. So they are not committed to the memory, so they won't be able to store it in the memory and use them later to solve problems and study purposes or understanding new knowledge. So if you really want your students to learn, you know that sensations are there. Teacher is there, visuals are there, teacher's explanation is there, everything is there. But all are not paid equal attention. So you have to get them to pay attention. To pay attention, you can do a lot of things in the class, right? But you know these are important areas, so I have to get them to pay attention. Once it's paid attention, it is perceived, it's given meaning, it is understood. That is the first process. Is it clear to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, as a teacher, if you don't actually have a plan for this, you think that you know the subject matter, you just go and teach as you know the subject matter. You're not a good teacher, you're not a professional teacher. A professional teacher has a plan. So in that plan, the teacher knows what are the important areas of the lesson today that the students will be able to do at the end of the lesson. So they are the specific objectives, and they are the important areas of the lesson that the students should not miss. So you have a plan to get their attention to these. Maybe asking a few questions, maybe getting them to underline, maybe raising your voice, maybe showing a visual, maybe writing the keywords on the board. Like that, you will have your own plan for that. That is planning your lesson. No teacher can't do actually effective teaching without planning their lessons. Okay, just because that you are a master of your subject matter. So with that, now it's perceived. You get your students to perceive it, give meaning to it. When they are ready to commit it to the memory. They are ready to commit it to the memory. Okay, they are ready to commit it to the memory. So what I'm going to discuss next is the memory, right? As I showed you, can you see the slides? No.
Still not, madam.
Yeah, I have to actually share it again. Right, okay. And now this PowerPoint. So this is cognitive process, sensation and perception, and then afterwards you have the memory and forgetting. Right? So you know, once perceived, the process of memory begins. So we are going to discuss how memory works. Right? I want to ask every one of you, I want every one of you to respond before I start this memory. Do you understand what I talk to you, or is it Greek to you? Hello, madams and sirs.
Hello, madam.
Yeah, understand, or it's difficult to understand?
It was clearly understood, madam.
It's little
Others,
bit difficult to understand for me.
difficult.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Which one is difficult for you, Puta? Which part? Is it what we discussed today or everything? I want you to tell me, otherwise I'll be in trouble, you will be in trouble. Okay, who spoke? Please talk. This is time. We have to actually quickly do now. So problems we have to discuss quickly. Tell me, Puta, who spoke? Who said it's difficult, Puta? I want to ask you questions. That's why. This is time. Who said that it's difficult? So I want to ask you a few questions and see what's gone wrong, Puta. That time I didn't see who said this, Kela. Now I'm looking at the participants actually who said, please talk. Somebody said no, that you can't understand.
We can understand, madam.
Somebody said no.
Yes.
Who said? Not to actually find faults with you, but I want to get a clarification, Putta. Was it Vidanagi? Was it Mubarika? Was it Nilupuli? Was it Salma? Was it Sanjula? Was it Shamali? Shara, Situmi or Sulochana? Please tell. Then I have to forget about and continue.
I'm not.
Excuse me, ma'am. There's a message in the chat box.
Okay, let me see. That is good. Because we have to actually help her now. Let's see in the chat box now. That message, okay. Ma'am, your voice is breaking. Can you repeat it? Which one, Putta? Can you repeat it? Which one? Is my voice breaking all through? Was it breaking all throughout?
No, madam.
Ma'am,
Here.
it was clear.
We'll forget about this and we'll get back to our work. If you actually found it very difficult to understand, Putta, I wanted to know whether it's actually language. Maybe that I go fast. If not, actually, you have a chance to, because you're getting the recording. So you listen to it over and over. I'm sending you reading material. So you can read them and work on your own and still have a problem. Come back to me, I will explain. Okay? That is my plan for you. If you really find it difficult, maybe that you were not there for the first few. I don't know. Maybe you were not there for the first part that I discussed yesterday, last time. That is what I wanted to ask. Okay. So then my advice is I send you get the recording. I send you reading material. So listen to the recording, read the reading material, make your own notes. It will help you to improve your language. It will help you to remember the subject matter and all that. And then I send you some questions on important areas. Please actually do them on your own. Don't just listen to the recording again, read the materials and do. Still you have a problem, then you can actually talk to me next time. Okay, my advice for you. And then now we are going to start memory. So memory, right? Screen sharing is post. Why is that? Okay, new share. So I'm sharing the PowerPoint now. Yeah. Can you see the PowerPoint?
No, ma'am.
Not yet, ma'am.
That is an issue here once again. Stop share. Okay.
Now, okay, ma'am.
Now you see the PowerPoint?
Yeah.
I can't see the PowerPoint, so I have to share it again. Now, is it?
You can't see.
Okay?
Now I can see, ma'am.
Yeah, ma'am.
Okay. Right now, we are now talking about, we discuss sensation and perception. Now we are talking about memory, because it is the next kind of step in the cognitive process. You have all the sensations, attention is paid, now they are perceived and given meaning. Now it is actually matter of committing it to the memory. In classroom also, you give them lots of sensory inputs. You get them to pay attention to important areas, and then they perceive them. And once perceived, once given meaning, they can't just forget. They have to actually commit it to the memory, and they have to store it in the memory for later use. If they forget, nothing can be done. So you have to commit it to the memory. So once perceived, once meaning is given, the next is committing it to the memory. So if you know how our memory works, if you as teachers, if you know how our memory works, then you can facilitate that committing information into the memory can be facilitated. Okay, you can facilitate the process. So because of that, in this section, we will discuss how memory works. So for that, we can't be discussing it in a kind of a way that a doctor or a neuroscientist, how they discuss. No. What is important for you as a teacher? Try to know about this memory. That is what we actually look at. For that, I have actually two components under memory. One is definition of memory, or what is memory, you have to know. And then the second is to discuss how memory works. There are several models of memories that are actually discussed in psychology, several models of memories. But of course, here we have taken the stage model of memory. Stage model of memory. So we will, that is one model that describes how actually our memory works. So we are looking at stage model of memory. There can be other models, we are not discussing them. I have selected the stage model of memory for you. And I will actually discuss that according to that stage model, how our memory works. So you come to know what is memory and how it works. So accordingly that you can organize teaching to facilitate committing information into memory and storing them in the memory for later use. That is actually a want. Is it clear to you, Puta, what we are going to discuss now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. Now memory. Memory refers to the processes that are used to acquire, store, retain, and later retrieve information. So in memory, there are four things happening. What are the four things happening in the memory? You acquire knowledge, information, you store them in the memory, you retain it in the memory. Retain means you keep it over a period of time, right? You store them, you retain. What is stored, you have to keep it and then retrieve. So once you want that information, you will be able to take it back, retrieve it, and solve problems, answer questions, understand new experiences and situations. Actually, when you come to an examination, sometimes you have acquired knowledge, you have stored it in the knowledge, but I can't remember. I studied it last night also, but it does not come to my mind. There's a memory block or something like that. So you're unable to retrieve that information. No? Has it happened to you? Yes, it has happened. So
Excuse me, ma'am.
memory in, yeah.
Can you explain it? What is retrieve?
Retrieve means taking back, getting back. Now you have information, you put them into the memory, and memory you have wanted to retain,
That
over a
means
period of time,
it
and that
means
memory
that
should be used. Retrieve,
Excuse-
that memory should be used.
Excuse me, madam. It means renew the memory.
What is the word you use, Putta?
Retrieve mean renew the memory.
Renew කරනවට වැඩිය, you have to use that information in the memory to write an answer, to understand a new situation and all that.
Okay, madam.
Output.
That is retrieve, get it back. මොලේ
Thank
තියෙනවා,
you.
නමුත් ඒක යොදා ගන්න මතක වෙන්නේ.
Yeah.
Right? You have to get it back and apply. Apply that information and write an answer and all that. So sometimes all these four will not happen. You study, you store it in the memory, but when it comes to examination, you can't actually recall it. You can't recall, it's forgotten. Why? Retrieval is difficult. Getting back that information to the surface and write an answer, understand a new situation, solving a problem is difficult. So if the memory to be very effective, you have to get the information to be acquired, stored, retained, and retrieved. Four processes. So memory is the Matlin 2005's definition. Memory is the process of maintaining information over time. Memory is the process of maintaining information over time. Over time, can over a period of time, long period of time. Memory කියන්නේ මොලේට දාලා ඒව මතක තියාගන්නවා. කියන එක තමයි කියන්නේ. හරි? Okay. A perception is understanding. But just understanding wouldn't help. They have to actually commit it to the memory and keep it over a period of time. And once they need that, they will be able to take it back from the memory and use it. Okay, that is what. So what is memory again? Three major processes in memory. Encoding, storage, retrieval. Encoding, transforming information into a form that can be entered and retained by memory system. Storage, that is meaningfully, right? You actually understand and give it meaning. Storage, retaining information in the memory so that it can be used at a later time. Retrieval, recovering stored information for conscious awareness. Okay, now maybe that I told you what are the 5 laws of Gestalt. You understood that. But if you have not committed it to memory, at the examination, you will not be able to answer my question. Okay, that's it.
Yes, ma'am.
Give me a second. Vishal, I'm in a class. Can I come back to you? Right. So then, encoding, storage, and retrieval. So as a teacher, you have to get them not only to understand, but to commit it to the memory and keep it in the for a long time, and then they will be able to actually get it back and solve problems, understand new situations, write answers at the examination, like that, do a presentation and all that. Okay. So here to discuss how this memory works, acquiring, storing, retaining, and retrieving of information, how it works, we can discuss the stage model of memory. We can discuss the stage model of memory. Are you listening and are you okay for me to proceed?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear.
Yes, ma'am.
Right, okay. Now here, according to stage model of memory, Puta, right? I really would like to hear from all of you before I start this. Can you tell me something for a change, maybe that you are not in this world now? Now, are you all teachers?
Yes, ma'am.
Where do you teach? Give your first name and tell.
I'm Sulochana Rupasinghe. I work in Olcott Buddhist English School, Galeville.
Okay, good. You are in a school. What are the grades you are teaching and what are the subjects?
I'm doing grade 1 class, ma'am. All the subjects I'm doing.
Yeah, primary is like that, grade 1 teachers, very important. Okay.
Yeah.
We still remember our grade 1 teacher. Right? Okay. So what about others? One more person.
I am Sanjula.
Yes, Angela.
I am teaching at Brightwood International Horana.
Where?
Brightwood International Horana.
Foreigner.
Yeah.
You're from Colombo then, right?
Actually, not Colombo, Kaluthara district.
Yes, yes, yes. Good, good, good. What's your subject?
I am teaching English language and literature.
What grades?
Primary and secondary. Primary literature and secondary English language.
You're Sulochana?
No, Sanjula.
Sanjula. Okay, Sanjula. Good. One more person.
I'm Nilupuli. I'm teaching at Dellava Mahavidyalaya, Gaul.
Gaul, right? Okay. Now, I was in a kind of a very big misunderstanding. I thought this institution is from Northeast. Most of the teachers are from Northeast, Kerala. So I'm mistaken, right? Okay. Anyway, now back to this. Anyway, again, a word of, yeah, you have something to tell? You have something to tell? No. Yeah, it's background noise. To understand how our memory works, we can look at one of the models that describes or that explains how this memory works. Okay, there are several models, but we will look at the very simple one, the stage model of memory. According to the stage model of memory, our memory has 3 levels. How many levels?
3 levels.
3 levels. What are these 3 levels of memory? Sensory memory, short-term memory, and long-term memory. Right? Sensory memory, short-term memory, long-term memory. So if you look at sensory memory, it is the first level. So when the information or knowledge is presented, they first enter the sensory memory. Okay? Now you have to know their attention, their capacity, their duration. Their capacity and duration. If you take sensory memory, they come as sensory input. How long they can stay in the sensory memory? How long they can stay in the sensory memory? They can't stay long in the sensory memory. It's only 3 to 4 seconds. It's only 3 to 4 seconds that they can stay in the sensory memory. Not minutes, Puta, but seconds, right? Sensory memory only 3 to 4 seconds that they can stay in the sensory memory. Right. Emanang, what will happen if they are not paid attention within those 3 to 4 seconds? If they are not paid attention, they are forgotten. They are lost. They are lost. What's the capacity? Capacity is also limited. You can't take in all the sensory inputs into your sensory memory. You have to pay selective attention. Selective attention. Maybe that you can actually listen to my voice. You can look at the screen, but you can't pay equal attention to the television. If you actually get interested in the television program, then you can't pay attention to my lesson. Your daughter comes and cries. So you have to cater to that. And then you lose my information. So their selective attention is paid and it's limited and its duration is also very limited. So 3 to 4 seconds. Sensory memory, 3 to 4 seconds. Limited capacity. You can't pay equal attention to everything that is there, right? And within 3 to 4 seconds, අපි කියනවා span කියලා. In the sensory memory, if within 3 to 4 seconds attention is not paid, they are lost, they are forgotten. If attention paid, they are sent to the next level of memory. They are sent to the next level of memory. What is the next level of memory? Short-term memory. Short-term memory. Within 2 to 3 seconds, not minutes, Puta, you have to pay attention. Once paid attention, they are sent to the short-term memory. Here, sensory memory can have 2 main types of information. Getting back to sensory memory. You can make notes. I'm sending you a note also. Sensory memory can have 2 main types of information. You call them iconic memory and echoic memory. I repeat, iconic and echoic. Iconic, ICONIC. Iconic memory, what you see. Iconic memory is what you see. Echoic, 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 what you hear. The rest is actually they are secondary. So they are also transformed into either iconic or echoic, right? And iconic and echoic memories, they can stay only for 3 to 4 seconds in the sensory memory. Attention paid, they are sent to the short-term memory. Attention not paid, they are forgotten. They are lost. Now, you don't want your students to lose information. Do you want them to lose information? Forget things? No. What do you want? You want them to put them into the short-term memory. So here, so because of that, you get them to pay attention, not to everything, the most important parts. Okay. Now, once attention paid, they are now in the short-term memory. So what is the capacity? What is the duration or span? Capacity is, I repeat, in the short-term memory, capacity is magic number 7. What is the capacity of information in short-term memory?
Magic number.
Magic number 7.
7. We say 7 plus or minus 2. What do you say?
7 plus
Plus or minus.
minus
Very good.
and
7
plus
plus or minus. 7
7 plus or minus.
plus or minus. That means from 5 to 9 digits of information can be kept in the short-term memory. In the short-term memory, the magic number 7, 5 to 9 digits of information. So is it unlimited or it's limited memory? Short-term memory is unlimited or limited?
It's limited memory.
Limited. Limited. And what is the duration? 20 to 30 seconds, not minutes. How much time that it can stay in the short-term memory?
20
20 to
20
30
to
seconds.
30 seconds. So short-term memory is also limited in capacity, magic number 7. Duration is 20 to 30 seconds. So within that time, you have to get them to rehearse, practice. If practiced or if rehearsed, they are sent to the 3rd level of memory, long-term memory. But if not rehearsed, they are lost, they are forgotten. So as teachers, you have to get them to go to the long-term memory. So get them to pay attention and get them to rehearse, right? And then in the long-term memory, once they are put to the long-term memory, because it's rehearsed, now you know the capacity and the duration. Capacity.
Ma'am, excuse me, ma'am. Ma'am, under rehearsal memory, does it say repetition also?
Definitely,
then example?
yes. Yeah, it may be repetition. Most of the time rehearse, everything is not all the time repetition, but rehearse means
Like
practice. Get them to
practice,
work with that. In primary classes, it may be repetition.
Okay, ma'am.
But in
Example.
A-level class, it may not be repetition, but what you teach, they have to apply it into something.
Yeah, ma'am. Normally, when people recite the things, normally we know in Pirit chanting also. Sometimes we don't know anything. Just we are reading it every day. Automatically, we can say it by memory, and
Definitely,
it will not.
yes.
Yeah, like that. Doing that again and again also can be applied, ma'am.
Yeah, that is also actually one way of keeping things in memory, right? Repetition. But Puta, you have to know this. Now you are teaching different levels. If it is a grade 1 class, definitely it's repetition. But suppose you are teaching grade 11 or you're teaching undergraduates, rehearsal does mean the same thing is repeated. Now you give them a formula, they apply that formula and do a sum. You
Okay,
got
ma'am,
my
understood.
point? Yeah,
Yeah,
Chanda.
I got, ma'am.
Yeah,
Yeah, I got,
because it
ma'am.
depends on their ability, cognitive levels. You will be learning it in some module, like lower order thinking, higher order thinking. So once they actually become mature learners, rehearsal doesn't mean repetition. Okay. They have to apply it quickly to something and they do something with that, and that is rehearsal for a undergraduate like you all. Am I right? Yeah, for a
Yes,
grade
ma'am.
one, it can be repetition. Rehearsal doesn't mean it's only repetition. Yeah. But anyway, you have to work with it. What does it mean? Rehearsals. You have to work with it. Okay. Once work with it, it's sent to the long term. The beautiful part is now here, level 1 sensory memory, paid attention, it is sent to the short term memory, level 2, and it's rehearsed, it's sent to the long term memory. Then, of course, capacity is unlimited. Capacity is unlimited. Span is infinite. Infinite කියන්නේ මොකක්ද?
Yes.
Anantaya. There's no, you will, if you get dementia, if you meet with an accident like that, some politician actually lost its memory. No? He killed a man, he killed another politician, Hirunika's father, and then he lost his memory, something like that happened. Of course, yes. Otherwise, they are there until you die. Okay? So, unlimited capacity, infinite duration, long-term memory, that is the beauty of it. But you have to remember, though the long-term memory is unlimited and the duration is infinite, you can't put everything into the memory at the same time, lot of things into the memory at the same time. You can't feed. Can you feed that? No, because it first has to enter sensory memory and then go to short-term memory and then only come to the long-term memory. So big chunks cannot be taken in by sensory memory and short-term memory. So when you teach, you have to present your lessons in small parts. Get them to pay attention, practice it, rehearse it, and send it to the long-term memory. And then another part. So you have a 40-minute lesson, everything in 40 minutes to be taught at a one go, you don't. You chunk your lesson into parts. First this, and they put it into the long-term memory through attention, rehearsal, and all that, and come back and then go to the next part. That is a very important, actually, insight for you. Am I right or I'm not right?
You are correct, madam.
Yeah. And you know, when you grow up, your learners grow up, when they become mature, this short-term memory also you can improve. Improve your memory techniques there now. Because it can keep only 7 digits. Limited number of information. But suppose now I give you, make it chunking. CHUNKING, chunking. Now you want to actually keep a telephone number in your mind. Now you want to run to the land phone, then somebody reads the telephone number, so you want to keep it in. It's only for the short term. You don't have to keep it forever. But until you go to the telephone, that you have to keep the number in memory. So the telephone has 10 digits. How do you chunk it? You take 0112 as 1. And then you have 50 as another one. Like that, you can actually improve your memory through chunking. You got my point?
Madam, that means breaking into small parts like that.
No, breaking into small parts, anyway. Small parts, then 10 becomes 20, no?
Yeah.
You're chunking them. Chunking can grouping.
Grouping, yes.
Yeah. Then you can keep more than 7 digits. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is improving memory. So, තව තියෙනවා mnemonics. Mnemonics. You know, උපුල් ඊළඟ නැවෙන් ගිහින් ධම්මි නිදිද බලා වරේ. So you know the directions can be kept in mind. Am I right?
Yes.
There's another one called association. Association means you associate it with something very familiar. I use that technique a lot. I don't know why. when I find it very difficult to actually keep something in mind, I actually associate with something already known. Then I can easily actually keep it in the memory and send it to the long-term memory. Association, associate the new information with something you already know, right? And once sent to the long-term memory, you know there's something I want to tell you. What is sent to the long-term memory, you can keep it forever. And it's unlimited in capacity. But you can see a common problem because memory is not only acquiring, storing, retaining, but there's the fourth part. What is the fourth part? Retrieving. What is it? Retrieving. That is when you need that information, you should be able to easily get this back and use it. So that is difficulty in your students, in you as a student sometimes. It doesn't come back. What did she tell? Like that you tend to think. Why does it happen? They say when you store information in the long-term memory, I repeat, when you store, you get them to store, right? You can't go and store it. You get your students to store information in the long-term memory. When you get them to do that, okay, get them to actually store information in the long-term memory as you store books in a library. There's an analogy, a comparison. Analogy or a comparison. What is this analogy or comparison? Get them to store information in the long-term memory as you store information in a as you store books in a library. What is the meaning of this? Can you just have an educated guess? There's a nice comparison. Store information in the long-term memory as you store information, as you store books in a library. What's it? How you have to get them to store information? Can you have an educated guess there?
Should be classification.
Classification. Okay, can you explain?
In the library, we have some classifications now under.
Oh, very good, very good. I give you the right word, Putta.
Okay.
Systematically. What is it? Systematic. There's a system, no?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have to actually, now you go to the world's largest library in Qatar. Billions of books. As they are systematically stored, retrieving a book is a matter of a click. Am I right? Retrieving, getting a book is a matter of a click. Just you type a click on the computer, you get where you can find the book. Books on science is on the 10th floor. Books on neuroscience is on the shelf 17. A book written by this author in the alphabetic order, like that. It's a matter of a click, no time. Likewise, make sure you get your students to store information in the long-term memory systematically. How? Systematically. So you have to actually, you get them to store a large number of information in the long-term memory, right? And if they are not systematic, they can't retrieve it. Everything is jumbled. That is what happens when you cram for exams, right? You know this part belong to which unit, this part belong to which unit, how many reasons given there, nothing is known, just cram it. So you can't store information in the long-term memory like that. So vibhagata gila, everything is a mix up. You can't get anything back. So if you are very regular in your studies, consistent, very systematic, you know, in this psychology, I have this many number of this, and I have discussed this first. Under Piaget, I discussed two components. I have discussed 4 stages. Under each 4 stages, 5 criteria I have to think of, and everything is systematic. Retrieval is very easy. And there's another important thing that you have to do. Use it or lose it. The theory of use it or lose it. Memory එක වැඩි වෙනවා use කරන්න. If you go on using your memory, you can keep it. Otherwise, if you don't use your memory, it is lost. So that also here, but systematic storage. So how can you get your students to store information systematically? Can you ask them, make sure that you have to store them systematically like you keep books? No. You have to present your lessons systematically. You have to present your lessons systematically. You have to show them the big picture. In this unit, this is what I'm going to discuss. Once you finish that also, you can show them, this is what I discussed in this unit, and get them to do the summaries and all that. Short notes and all that. Then they know the big picture and they can elaborate on that. So get them to practice these metacognitive strategies in the class. Then only that you become a good teacher. Metacognitive strategies means you actually train them in writing summaries, diagrams, coming and talking about what they learned today, and ask them questions on the important areas like that. They actually then learn how to actually store information systematically in the long-term memory. Little by little, you have to give that practice. When I started my career as a teacher. So when I actually taught in a school, I made sure grade 6 class, I get them to actually do the flow chart of the unit by themselves. And once I finish that, if the unit is this, what are the grammar points that you learn? How many reading passages you have done? How many writing activities? What are the writing activities you have done in this unit? I get them to list them down. So they see it, what they have learned, and it becomes systematic. And that picture makes it very easy for them to retrieve once they want to apply that knowledge in later for understanding more new knowledge. So these, according to the stage model of memory, this is how memory works. Now I want you to actually tell me, make a podi simplest version එකක්. හරිද මේ short term memory එකේ තව කොටස් කඩලා ලොකුවට තියෙනවා. ඒව ඔයගලන්ට වැඩක් නැහැ. That is not very useful for you. But if you know the basic thing, what are the implications we can discuss. Now, if you really actually want to, now you know how our memory works. So if you want to facilitate memory of your students, committing information into the memory, it should be facilitated and promoted. What are the implications or insights for you from this? That is what I'm asking. Can you tell? Some we discuss actually when we were discussing this. I want you to talk. Actually, it's time for you to talk. I have discussed them while explaining. Are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
අනේ කියන්නකෝ අප්පා. ඔය හිත කියන්න. අපි කොහොමද උගන්වන්න ඕනේ? Information, knowledge, or part of a lesson, part by part, we have to give them the new knowledge. Am I right? So you have to actually make your lesson, put your lessons into parts. So the whole thing at a stretch you don't give. You present a small part and then go get them to pay attention and practice, and then only that you present the second part and all that. So it's very important. So when I actually get our observe lessons, I see to that. So as a teacher, you should be able to actually chunk your lesson into small parts, and you have to have a lot of strategies to get their attention. because attention not paid, information is not taken into the short-term memory and long-term memory. So as a good teacher, it's very important for you to be prepared with how to get the strategies for the students' attention. So that is how you become a good teacher, not because that you know the subject matter, okay? Because if they don't pay attention, actually, they can't actually commit it to the memory because it is not sent short-term memory and long-term memory. So a good teacher will think a lot in planning lessons, how to get my students' attention. And then you have to get them to practice, rehearse. If it's a small class, it may be actually repeat or painting something, touching something, or repetition or whatever. But in higher classes, it may be applying and doing something with that, working with that. And then it is sent to the long-term memory. And you have to make sure that you get them to know the big picture. This particular part belongs to which unit. Now here in this cognition, what you discuss, definitions. And then you know the sensation and perception. Under perception, Gestalt's laws. And under Gestalt laws, what is discussed? What is the law, the definition, the illustration, and the teacher implication. And then now the memory. In the memory, what we discuss. Like that, you have to have a very clear picture given to your students. And you yourself, you don't have to talk. If it's a primary class, you yourself can show them. But if it is a big class, you can get a good student or a volunteer to come in front of the class and tell what you learn in this unit and all that. You can get them to do a summary or a mind map or something like that. So that is how. Now, when I was actually studying, first I do the first reading of the whole unit. And then I make a note of all the topics and subtopics. And then, of course, under subtopics, what else is discussed? And under that, now memories, number three memories. Under memories, what is discussed, like that. They are metacognitive strategies. The way I do will not work for you. So you have your own way of actually keeping things in mind. So you have to get the learner to know what it is by giving them little practice activities like mind map, summary, questions and answers based on the whole unit, like that. Then they will know which one is best working for them. So they are also part of teachers' responsibilities to get them to develop their study skills. Okay, and I have another one, types of memories in the long-term memory. I don't think that it is very important for you. So I skip that. So strategies to improve memory, enhance recall, and increase retention. Here, can one of you read it for the class? I asked
Focus.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Ma'am,
Yes.
Focus your attention on materials you are studying. Avoid cramming by establishing. Cramming
ඔය නිකන්
by
දණ්ඩම් ගාලා විනාඩිය පාඩම් කරන්නේ. You all are good at it, no? Okay.
structure and organize the information you are studying. Utilize
structure information. Utilize mnemonic devices to remember information.
උපුලි ළඟ නැවෙන්නේ ධම්මිනි දෙද බලාවරේ.
elaborate and rehearse the information studying.
Elaborate and
Elaborate.
rehearse the information.
You are studying. Relate new information to things you already know.
Association.
Visualize concept to improve memory and recall.
Visualize in your imagination. Up, mind answers, mind maps, and all that. Actually, I'm very good in mind answers. In my mind, I think of answers, questions that they might ask, and all that. Okay. Then next.
Teach new concepts to another person.
Very good. That's very important. That is why I tell you, please come prepared for a presentation, Kiela. Shall we make it now? Next day, is it too early, Kiela? I will send you some topics. Now, I will finish the lesson quickly. We have only another small part. And then I want to give you actually instructions for your written assignment. I talked to you about it, a presentation, because there are only about 9-10 students. So we can actually do a presentation. That presentation, of course, not on a topic that I teach you. I will send you actually reading material, and I ask you to read this and be prepared to do a small presentation on this topic for 5 minutes. So you can prepare your own slides, and you can't read from your paper. You have to be ready for the presentation, and you do it. I think it's really good, Kela. What do you think about it?
Yes, madam, it will be very nice because if not,
Y'all are not talking, only I'm talking. Yeah. So because of
Yes, ma'am.
we can
It's
make it a classroom
okay.
activity also. But you don't come prepared, no, even though I give you activities, you're not ready. Otherwise, actually, we can do like that. That interest you have to have, Puta. I will give you my own experience. Now, when I was reading for my first degree, we had about 100 odd batchmates. Very few took interest in classroom activities. We worked on regular basis. We did some other extra reading. Those days we did not have internet. We did not have transport facilities like now. You can get onto a trishaw or a taxi and go. Those days they were not available, right? This is about 28 years ago I'm referring to. So from Colombo University to the British Council, I walked. I used to walk after 4. That's the only source of knowledge for us. Now internet, everything is there. But that commitment has gone a long way, no? So if you really want to actually pursue, you have to have your study skills developed. So regular studies, looking for information, getting ready for something to be done in the class. You all go there, I like it. So we have to tell you, we have to encourage you, okay? Motivate you. Right. Right. I know you don't have to say, I'm married and I have kids. I also have. Okay. When I was doing my higher studies and all that. So you have to, this is a knowledge society. Knowledge society means, Puta, you can't wait for anything. Everything should happen parallelly. Now, our time, finish your studies, then get married and look after your children. Now it's not like that. Parallelly, everything should happen. Work, earn, learn, and blah, blah, blah also can happen. Work, earn, learn, and blah, blah, blah. That is one feature of knowledge society. Why knowledge explosion is there? You cannot think what I know today is enough. You have to have the thirst for knowledge in you. At the other time. Now, memory. Of course, we discussed memory, but we have to come to forgetting. Forgetting is researched by Ebbinghaus. Ebbinghaus is the name of the psychologist, right? There are others also, but Ebbinghaus and Elizabeth Loftus, they are very prominent psychologists when it comes to forgetting. So Ebbinghaus actually proposed a forgetting curve. It has an insight for you. You look at this forgetting curve by Ebbinghaus, and what do you see? Here on the y-axis, you have savings, remembering. Here on the x-axis, you have time over a period of 31 days. How is forgetting happens? How does forgetting happen? As soon as something is learned, 30 minutes, 1 hour, 1 day, 2 days, 6 days. What has happened? You have lost a lot of information learned. But if you can keep it for 2 days and 6 days without losing it, then they are not forgotten easily. More or less, they are kept. They are remembered. Can you see that?
Yes, ma'am.
So what is the actually, if you want to actually minimize forgetting, what have you got to do as teachers? As soon as something new is taught, you have to get them to rehearse and practice, rehearse and practice.
New lesson.
And then if they can keep it for 2 days and then a week, 6 days, you know, they will not forget that afterwards. So that is why in school, sometimes, you know, homework is given. What they study in the school, they go home and do something on that. So it's rehearsed. And in some schools, they have weekly tests. Why weekly tests? Because if they can study for the weekly test throughout the whole week, they are studying because they have a weekly test. Then it's kept for 6-7 days. They are not forgotten afterwards. To minimize forgetting, you have to actually, once something is taught, you have to get them to rehearse it a lot by giving them homework, getting them to be prepared for weekly tests and all that. And if they can keep it for a week, and then hardly that they will lose that information. They will forget that information. Hardly that it will happen. Are you okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Then we'll get to Elizabeth Loftus. According to Elizabeth Loftus, forgetting can happen for 4 reasons. How many reasons?
Failure
Four
to
reasons.
4
motivated.
reasons. Yeah, what are the 4 reasons? Retrieval failure,
Failure, interference,
interference, failure to store,
Failure to
motivated
store,
forgetting.
motivated forgetting.
Yeah. Retrieval failure, I have spoken to you about it. Why can't we retrieve from the long-term memory? Because it's not systematically stored in the long-term memory. Just cramming just before the exam and all that. Do not know head and tail from here and there, you know a bit of it. That, of course, is very difficult to retrieve when you really want to get it back. So retrieval failure happens due to the reason that you have not got your students to store information systematically in the long-term memory. So due to that, forgetting can happen. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Interference. Interference. Interference is this. It's something new now. Right? Interference is this. Existing knowledge, information interferes with the new knowledge. So it's very difficult to accommodate new knowledge because of what you have already know. But you already know about something. I will tell you something. Now in the primary class, you tell them past tense and past participle form of the verb is formed by adding ed, ed. Am I right?
Yes.
But later on, you introduce the irregular verbs as well. There are 5 different ways of forming irregular verbs.
Yeah.
But their knowledge, their memory on ed, ed, regular verbs rules, they will interfere. And you can see in grade 6 also, they write eat, eated, eaten. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
So you have to know that what they already know may interfere. Because of that, you have to actually give a lot of attention to that and practice to that. So you have to draw their attention to the fact that what you already know, you have to actually now we call it kind of correct it. It's not only ED, there are others as well. You have to actually emphasize on that. Then the interference will not happen. This is not only related to actually education. I remember now I taught one of the Muslim girls, Afra, elder sister. And then later on in the campus, I met the youngest sister in the family, Asfa. But forever I was calling Asfa Afra. Interference, something like that. It can happen in classroom also. So as teachers, you should know. Sometimes this can happen because previously this is what they all know. And they already have formed their schematas. So we have to actually now correct them. You have to know where you have to actually make it. That is the teacher.
Ma'am, yeah,
Yeah.
ma'am, I can say one example. I don't know whether it
Yeah.
is correct or
Yes.
wrong.
Tell Putu.
Sometimes people use the as the when there is vowel sound, but
Yeah.
when there is no vowel sound, also people use the. It also like that,
Yeah,
ma'am.
yeah. It can be interference. It can be sometimes you're so used to it.
Maybe, ma'am. Yeah.
Also, interference also be there. Now, this is only one instance. It can be due to that you use the word the a lot, and then you use. There are some those who do not use the at all. No?
Yes, ma'am.
I went for the examination and all that. There are some, and sometimes it may be lack of knowledge. Sometimes it can be interference. Sometimes, as you said, it can be interference to that, right? I agree with you. But we can't
Okay,
say
ma'am.
that it's just because only of interference, we can't
Yeah.
say, right? And then good. I like you to talk like this. And failure to stow. Failure to stow happens when it is not paid attention, when it is not adequately rehearsed. They have failed to store it in the long-term memory. Am I right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So due to that
Yes, ma'am.
also forgetting happens because they are lost now. Forgetting, lost. And motivated forgetting is actually, it comes from Sigmund Freud, psychoanalysis school of thought, the unconscious mind. Okay. මම එක ගොඩාක් විස්තර කරන්න යන්නේ නැහැ. Motivated forgetting can happen due to some experiences stored in the unconscious mind. That is a conflict and it is a kind of a traumatizing experience. So even if actually it is forgotten by the child. Normally the children abused, there are some children sexually or physically abused. They actually can't remember anything when they actually grow older. Otherwise, it's a actually defense mechanism. Psychologically it's a defense mechanism because if they remember them, they can't live a life, right? They can't live a life. So our body has, our psyche has a kind of a defense mechanism. It's motivated that it is forgotten. Motivated forgetting is that. I will give you an example from schools. Now, sometimes the teachers are very rude, and sometimes teachers favor other students. So the children starts a dislike towards the teacher. Because of that, what is taught by the teacher actually not taken into head and it's forgotten. That can happen. You know, it is a help for the child to actually live happily after going home. So the subject matter the teacher teaches also, the students don't actually remember anything because they are defense mechanisms in our bodies for our survival. Okay. What is in the unconscious mind, the conflicts and the irrational thoughts and fears, they are forgotten and we do not know our body works for it, works on that. It's beautiful, isn't that? Isn't that so?
It's beautiful, ma'am. Yeah.
Yeah, that is true. Okay. Now, ek amataka karanna, but anyway, you apply karanna pula now actually lots of cases are there, especially these primary students and all that. They don't like to go to school. They actually don't learn anything from those teachers. Those cases are there. Once they are taken to a child psychologist, then the stories are revealed. You know, ඒවත් ළමයි කියන්නේ නෑ. You get them to draw pictures and all that and read their mind. It's a different one. Actually, it's clinical psychology. So these issues are now very common and because teachers are not professionals. Teachers actually, they do not know the child's mind. They have their favorations. In this materialistic world, people are corrupted. Even teachers are corrupted. So I really do not want you to be like that. You have to play the role of the mother and equal. Everyone should be treated equally. Number one, in our societies, that is what is lacking. Favorations, actually, you favor one child. The rest, they see that, they feel it, and their mind is actually you are spoiling because they become unhappy. They start disliking you, your subject, and then the school, and they actually start suspecting the whole world, right? And the child's beautiful world is actually spoiled by the teacher, knowingly or
Yeah.
not knowingly.
Yeah,
You
ma'am,
don't have
one
to do that.
example.
Yeah,
Ma'am, when I was working in the school, one day in the morning assembly, one child went to recite a poem. He could read only 2 lines. Then
yeah,
principal took a stick and give him 2 shots. After that, the other one came. Other one forgot everything. Then after that, I asked him after the assembly. He said,
yeah,
because principal hit the first one, I forgot everything.
yeah. That is also there. Ekanang ara me excitement, no? Excitement.
Excitement.
Motivating
Yeah.
forgetting is within your body. It's
Yeah,
something
yeah, ma'am.
psychological. But as
Yeah.
you said, your example is to tell the role of the teacher, no? That is what you
Yes,
wanted
yes,
to
ma'am. Yeah,
highlight.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
it.
Yes.
That is what you wanted to highlight. I 100% agree with you, Chanan, because our teachers actually, they are also, teachers are actually not like any other person or any other professional. You all are working with young minds, right? They are very actually subtle. You have to know individual differences should be respected. You have to give love to each and everyone. And motivation. Motivation comes through that sense of love and belongingness. This is my class. This is my teacher. This is my these. They are my friends, and I'm happy. They are sense of security.
From
Right?
the appreciation also, they make happy now, ma'am.
From the appreciation,
Appreciation, yeah.
definitely yes. Teaching is not just giving subject matter, right? You will be actually learning them in classroom management, okay? And each and every, sometimes it's not words, maybe a nod, maybe looking into his eyes, maybe actually saying good, maybe a smile. A little thing goes a long way. You're a good teacher, you have to be equipped with all that. Subject matter is only a small component today. You know your English, you know your mathematics is only a small component. It's a must, but it's a small component. The rest is not there. You are never a good teacher, right? You walk into the classroom, everyone is delighted because you don't have favorations. And everybody is given a kind of a sense of recognition. You not take a class, like a bedan mentally divide the class into sections. And time to time you look at each section. And you have to actually now 40 minutes, 40 students in the class, 1 minute for each one. But how to manage that class? Everyone feels that teacher is connecting with me and all that. So lots of things. That is what that make you a teacher, a professional, not the subject matter that you know, right? So they will be discussing other modules and other in this lesson also sometimes in discussing others, a lot of things. So you have to, I really want you to get the certificate, be qualified, but try to apply all these things, take those things into your head, the insights for the teacher implications, and try to actually, when you plan lessons, try to incorporate each and everything, visualize how I'm going to conduct my class next day. And it will give you a lot of insights, and later on it becomes a practice. That is why teaching practice and all these things were done previously when you are a teacher trainee, right? So you have to visualize. You are made to visualize and walk into the class, and then you look at each one. Then popsicle sticks are there. You randomly pick and ask the question. So like that, mage saralamaika, no favorations. You can have your own sisters. I have had my own nieces in my class, but never I have given the kind of that impression to my students that I favor. They know that I don't favor them. That is a teacher. Now everybody is happy in your class. At the end of the day, that is what you will have to actually rejoice, recall and rejoice, right? Okay, with that, Puta, now I will be sending definitely by tomorrow, coming Sunday. Is it too early if I actually get you to do your lesson coming Sunday, presentations coming Sunday?
Mm.
Too early, no?
In my case, it's okay, but I don't know about others.
Others, no, that's the thing. I will give you 5 days. It can coming Wednesday. Today is a Wednesday. Coming next Wednesday. Next Wednesday, you all have to be prepared for a presentation. But that presentation is not on a part that I cover, right? I will be sending you all the instructions and reading material. You have to select a component from that reading material from your syllabus only, right? And then you have to read, you have to actually prepare a PowerPoint slide, you have to have your video on, and you have to conduct that presentation for 4 to 5 minutes. I'll be sending you all the instructions. And coming Wednesday, you have to do that. By tomorrow, I'll be sending it to you all. Okay?
Okay.
And with
Okay,
that,
ma'am.
with that, we finished the cognition unit. We discussed what is cognition, the process of cognition, then sensation and perception gestalt laws. And then we discussed the stage model memory and the definition of memory. And then we discussed the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve. And we discussed Elizabeth Loftus' 4 reasons for forgetting. And we discussed how to get the attention of the students, what you can do, the strategies like highlighting, raising your voice, asking questions like that. And then make a list of them and keep with you, because it makes you think how to get my students' attention. And then how to improve your memory. Also we discuss. That is the unit that we finish. And we can next go to learning theories. Okay. Theories of learning. Theories of learning. We will be discussing 4 or 5 theories of learning. After that, intelligence. Likewise, we have some more to cover. I will be sending you the instructions for coming Monday's presentation. So thank you for being in my class. We'll make it a more interactive class next day. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
I will send you a set of questions on cognition as well. Okay.
Thank you so
You
much.
can listen to it, read the material, and then you can try to actually answer the questions. Okay. See you then. Good night. Bye.
Good night, ma'am. Bye.
Okay. Bye.